So I have a review for you guys today, and it is on the book And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. It is Mystery's #1 bestseller, or at least it was. This is the older copy of the book, the newer copies of the book. Some of the things inside have changed, and I will explain that to you now. First thing first, the title has changed 3 times, And Then There Were None, I believe, is the current title of the book. The first title was offensive. First off, this book is based off a poem, and this was the title of the poem. The poem's title has changed twice. Okay, well, it's changed once. The original and then the changed. But it was originally called 10 Little N-Words, and then it was changed to 10 Little Indians, which is still the name of the poem. And then it was changed to And Then There Were None because Indian, I believe now, is a derogatory term. But the poem, even in the newer versions, is not changed, but it is changed from Indian Island to Soldier Island, but they probably did not have the rights to change the poem, so they did not. And yeah, so let's just get right into this. I loved this book. I love this book, actually. I reread this book. It is fantastically written. Agatha Christie writes a great mystery novel. If you've read Agatha Christie, you probably know she's amazing at this. I'm going to read you the back of the book too. I probably should have done that in the very beginning of this video, but okay. Perhaps the greatest mystery novel of all time, it is. And Then There Were None is Agatha Christie's acclaimed masterpiece of murder and suspense. 10 strangers are gathered together on an isolated island by a mysterious host. One by one, the guests share their darkest secrets of their wicked past, and one by one they die. So now I will read you the poem it is based off of, because I feel like I should get those things out of the way in the beginning of this. In the newer book, I believe the poem is in one of the first pages before you read it. It's also in the book. It appears in the book multiple times, but for my book, it appears the first time on page 22, and I will read that to you now. 10 little Indian boys went out to dine. One choked his little self, and then there were 9. 9 little Indian boys sat up very late. One overslept himself, and then there were 8. 8 little Indian boys traveling in Devon. One said he'd stay there, and then there were 7. 7 little Indian boys chopping up sticks. One chopped himself in halves, and then there were 6. 6 little Indian boys playing with a hive. A bumblebee stung one, and then there were 5. 5 little Indian boys going in for law. One got in chancery, and then there were 4. 4 little Indian boys going out to sea. A red herring swallowed one, and then there were 3. 3 little Indian boys walking in the zoo. A big bear hugged one, and then there were 2. 2 little Indian boys sitting in the sun. One got frizzled up, and then there was 1. 1 little Indian boy left all alone. He went and hanged himself, and then there were none. So it's creepy, but I think it's creepy awesome. Personally, I really love creepy things. I love horror movies and everything, and that's probably one of the creepiest poems I've ever read. But it's brilliant, and I think it's also brilliant that Agatha Christie read that, and all of a sudden this story appeared in her head. The woman was a genius. I should probably say was, because she, rest in peace, Agatha. But she was just brilliant. This whole story, the way she puts it together, is very realistic. The happenings, I believe all of this could happen, which is the scary thing when reading this. It gets very creepy, at least it did for me. I got paranoid. I kept looking at my door thinking someone was going to come in and kill me, because it's just so realistic, and Agatha Christie found a way that both her description and dialogue was flawless. Sometimes in books you will find one outdoes the other. Sometimes the description's better than the dialogue, and sometimes the dialogue is better than the description. I do write, and my dialogue is usually better than my description. I need to get better at describing things in my stories. She found a way where she mastered both. I remember when reading the first chapter or so, I was thinking there's a lot more description, but I think that's mainly just the first chapter. The dialogue really starts rolling as soon as they get to the island. Even though I read it as Indian Island, because this is the copy I read, I'll refer to it as Soldier Island because it was changed for a reason. So when they get to Soldier Island, the dialogue really starts rolling, and you start finding out more and more about these characters. Usually in mysteries, you find out a little bit at first, and in the first chapter, you find out these people seem to have shady pasts, at least some of them. Their past feels kind of shady, or the character seems kind of shady, and then after And then after, I'm trying to find where it really starts, because I want to be exact about all this, but after the past starts coming out, especially in chapter 3. Chapter 3 is when their pasts start getting more exposed and you learn more and more about the characters, or at least what it claims the characters did. So, as the back says, and I don't feel this is a spoiler since it says it right on the back of the book, they have dark secrets and wicked pasts, and you're not sure if all of the pasts are true or if it's fabricated, which is one of the awesome things about this. When reading this, my guess on what would happen is that the innocent would survive. Now, I'm not going to say what happens, but that was my guess. That's what I went into this thinking. I went into this without having really any knowledge on the storyline. I saw clips of some movies, but the movies usually take their own interpretation with it. Some movies even change the order they are killed in, which, by the way, the order is vastly, vastly, vastly important in this. But Agatha Christie, this is my favorite book of all time. And that's a big statement for me because I own a lot of books. It's funny because I usually don't read mysteries too much. I don't get into them. I sometimes feel it takes too long to really get somewhere and it's boring. She keeps you on the edge of your seat. I could not put this book down. The first day I read 3 chapters, the next day I finished the book. Because the beginning's a little slow because it's an opening and you just read about the characters you traveling all to this location. You learn that they all got mysterious letters from a mysterious person. Most of them anyway. And then I was kind of like, okay. Then after the first kill, I'm like, okay, I can't put this down. And I think, and it's incredible. All the different characters she put together a fantastic mix of characters that all play off each other beautifully, and I'm trying not to spoil too much, as I said, but I definitely recommend this whether you are a fan of more classic literature or if you are just a fan of even the recent literature. I believe the writing in this is timeless, even though it does, even in the newer copy, some offensive words are still kept in the book, so look out for that. I think it's a good showing of what the past was like in that year, though. The N-word is said throughout the book in my copy and in the newer version, and it's a word people did say during their 1939 was not a flawless time, and I feel reading books from the time that haven't been edited really shows that and shows you a good look of that. So if you're also into some history, you'll probably enjoy this because while it is timeless, it also is very with the time. Like the women that are there, some of the guys, I believe one of the guys said, well, there's no way that woman was doing the killing because 1939 was a time where there was racism, sexism, and more homophobia than there is today. And so, yeah, it wasn't a flawless time, but this book is just, it is timeless. I very much enjoyed it. You find yourself really just wondering who is doing the killing. There's very few even hints in there, and all I'm going to say is she ties it up perfectly in a nice little bow at the end, and you will never, never guess who does it. It shocked me. It's funny, though, because I thought the book was over before it was actually over, and I'm like, it can't end here, and then I found out there was more writing, and then I read it, and when I found out who did it, I was in complete shock. And I just keep going back and rereading this because it is just, I wish I could shake hands with Agatha Christie because 10 out of 10 stars. I recommend this even if you don't enjoy reading. I think this will capture your attention. So that is my review on the book. I don't think I gave much away. And just to tie it up, there are 10 strangers, there are character deaths, and there is suspense beyond your wildest imagination. I had no idea this would be so suspenseful, and it will keep you guessing the entire way. And leave a comment if you've read this book or if you're interested in reading this book. And if you've read this book, just as a little fun thing, comment with who you thought was doing the killings in the beginning. I really did not know who to pick because I kept re-guessing as the chapters went on, because I wanted to figure the book out before the end, and I was unable to. So, that's my review, guys. I hope you guys have fantastic days. Don't ever go to an island that you... Don't ever RSVP to a letter sent by a mysterious person telling you to go on a pretty much deserted island. So, yeah, that's great advice. Bye, guys.